Welcome back to Musicians Hall of Fame, the question series here. If you're still awake, still with us, we hadn't bored you to death yet, Brittany, ask another question.
Okay, we're back with NVRAM Boy. Mm-hmm. Hi, Joe. An easy one, I think. How many times, if any, did Elvis actually perform in the Ryman Auditorium or Nashville Municipal? I've heard some of the legends handed down stories since he was controversial in his genre appearance and performances. But I wonder if he was ever allowed to actually do the show, and if so, what years? Love the channel. Congrats on the 30K and continued growth of both channel and MHOF. Thanks.
Well, first off, thank you very much. And yes, he did perform at the Ryman. And it didn't go well. One of the, I forgot the guy's name that was the head of the Ryman, said, don't quit driving your truck, you know, kind of a thing. And but they did perform at the Ryman. It was either DJ or Scotty One confirmed that to me.
And then the Nashville Municipal.
Municipal, he played here on a Sunday. I think it was, I can't remember what year it was now, but
I think Mom went. My mom.
No, she went to the one
at
MTSU.
Yeah.
But anyway, he did a matinee and an evening show.
All right, next question. I am an overcomer, is his name. Can you do a show on Jeff Beck or an interview with him? I think he's the best guitar player there is. Nobody can make a Strat sing like him. To my understanding, he doesn't use any pedals. It's just the guitar.
I've never seen him use any pedals either, and he is a great guitar player. He's many people's favorite guitar player. The way he uses the trim arm to flick it, I mean, he does create a sound that's truly unique. What was the rest of the question though about? I forgot.
I think he was just saying, can you do an interview with him?
I would love to do an interview with Jeff Beck. If anybody out there sees this and knows Jeff, if you could hook me up, I'd love it. So that could be a good wish list right there.
Cool. Patrick B., are there longer versions of these interviews you keep posting, and will you ever publish them in full length? We hope so, and I would gladly donate to the museum to see them. They are just fantastic. You better get on that.
Well, thank you very much. Well, there are longer versions. Now, we edited so there's two shows, okay? There's the one that we started that is called Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage, which this is going to kind of fall into that category since we're sitting here at the booth and you're seeing me and not just seeing the person that I was interviewing. And we do, they're half-hour shows. There are some of them that are 2 parts that are hour shows. So, for instance, the show we did with James Burton is 2 parts. The show we did with James Pankow, the trombonist and songwriter with Chicago, is 2 parts. The show we did with Steve Lukather is 2 parts. And so those are our shows. Garth was 1 part. You can go to to our YouTube channel and you'll have your choice. If it says 29 minutes and so many seconds, that's the Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Now, Alex, who you saw earlier, Alex will take clips out of those shows and make, short versions, just a certain segment for those of you who don't have 29 minutes to watch something, or don't want to, you can see exactly what it is and you don't have to watch the rest of the show just to get to the part that you like. The other part that we do is called Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage, the Vault series. Those are 1-camera shots that I did starting 2 years before, like I've told you guys before we opened the museum. And those are just I'm behind the camera asking the the interviewee their questions. And those are filmed all over the place, So that's the choices. And usually those are going to be broken up into 10 or 12-minute clips because they were just random questions that we asked, okay?
Okay, next one. TJ he says, "Hi Joe, thank you for the opportunity to ask. I grew up on the other side of the pond, but actually born on this side. There were many musical influences in my young life, 60 present. My heart songwriters are in Britain, but my musicians are in America. Do you have any particular area of songwriters and musicians through your travels?"
I'm not sure I totally understand the question. I can kind of say that I'm with you. There's a lot of the British invasion, those early songs, the zombies stuff, and the Kinks. Like I said earlier, obviously the Beatles, all those great records that came out of England. The writers are incredible, but so are the Jimmy Page and the guitar players and Jeff Beck and so I don't know, man. I'm kind of just. I don't have any one particular area that I like really more than the other. There's so many great people that are everywhere.
Cool. R.C. Andrews, my question is, will someone like Blaze Foley ever get his oral history told in the format you do here and ever be represented at the MHOF?
Again, I don't know that he's been nominated. I know he's a really great songwriter and singer, and has had an incredible life and story and everything. But I don't know if he falls in the category of being in the Musicians Hall of Fame as a player. So I don't know. Sorry.
All right, next one, Nocaster Ray. Hope I said that right. Top 5 drummers, rhythm guitarist, lead guitarist, singers, composers of their music, and bands in different genres. That's a lot.
Well, I loved Mitch Mitchell with Experience. I already mentioned I like Chad Smith. Hal Blaine was a really good friend, and Hal, like the drummer, I guess from the Knack said, 10 of my favorite drummers are Hal Blaine. Because he played on so many people's records. John Bonham, Danny Serafin is an incredible drummer from Chicago. Geez, I don't know, man. What was some of the questions?
Rhythm guitarists, lead guitarists, singers, composers of their music, and bands in different genres. I guess just what do you like? Who's your favorite of each?
Well, I love B.B. King, and I love Howlin' Wolf, and I like John Lee Hooker's playing. Dwayne Allman, guitar player-wise. Terry Kath, one of the most underrated guitar players, maybe one of the greatest of all time. Obviously Hendrix. Like I said, Mike Campbell, I think is, Jimmy Page. Chet Atkins was fantastic. Dwayne Eddy's another one. Steve Cropper. So there's a whole lot of great guitar players. I don't know. What's another question off that?
Off the one from Nocaster. You just asked about rhythm guitarists, lead guitarists, singers, composers, or bands.
Well, I think we probably already hit a lot of those, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Tom Petty.
well, Beach Boys, so many of the guys that were, you know, Wrecking Crew and Nashville A-Team players, and Uriel Jones, drummer with the Funk Brothers and Motown, and you know.
All right, we're going to move on? Okay. The name Land, Sea, Air Canada says, thanks, Joe. My question is twofold. The first is, what one record or song made you a fan of R&R? And the next is, are there any new rock bands you're digging? Thank you.
You may not, I mean, I like Greta Van Fleet, you know. And I like the Shelters that Tom Petty was working with. They were really good. I love Tom Campbell's new band. Again, I'm wearing my Tom Petty's badge, but the Dirty Knobs are really great. And I'm having Fishbrain. What was the?
So, one question was, what one record made you a fan?
Well, the first song that made me want to play guitar was I learned House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. But I love those early Kinks, and I love Paul Revere and the Raiders. I mean, I know they're kind of call them maybe bubblegumish or something, but you know, Hungry and Kicks and Just Like Me. Listen to the guitar riff in Just Like Me. The guitar riff in that is just, it's actually, it's one reason is they went back and overdubbed it twice, and that's one reason it was driving everybody crazy trying to play it, because he was playing it twice. You know, he went back and they ended up, when they played he said, let me do one more. And when he went back to play it again, then when they did the playback, they had both channels going, and it was just magic, you know. Also Stephen Stills, man, what a great guitar player. And Neil Young's a great guitar player. Songwriters, but you were talking about new people though. I think those two, the Shelters and the Greta Van Fleet, stick out.
Cool. Next one, again, sorry if I say this wrong, S.A. Yeager. Question is, I'd like to know if you would be posting any content or content related to John Prine, Steve Goodman, and Lucinda Williams.
Not at this moment.
Okay. Scott K. bought a 2019 American Pro Telecaster a couple days ago. Love, love, love it. How about a brief history of the Telecaster and artists who played it?
Okay, go to the Bill Carson interview I did, and Bill was, when I had my guitar shops, Bill was my Fender rep. Bill bought one of the very first Telecasters ever made from Leo himself, and ended up working for Leo from, I don't know, 52 until 2000-ish, somewhere like that. But Bill was the one that took the Telecaster, and which was originally the Broadcaster, because Gretsch had a set of drums called Broadcaster. They had to cut that off the label that said Fender, and just put Fender on it, which became known as the Fender Nocaster, since they didn't say Broadcaster or Telecaster yet. And they came up with the word Telecaster later. But Gretsch had a set of drums called the Broadcaster, so they legally already owned the name. Bill did not like the Telecaster because it ate into his ribs, and his arm went over it, since it was just a slab piece of wood. So Bill took a hacksaw and hacked off the front part of the Tele and the back part to give it a contour, to keep it from digging into his ribs and cutting off the circulation in his arm when he hung it over. And that was really what led to the creation of the Stratocaster. But anyway, Bill can tell you in that interview we did right before he died all about that, and as well as the interviews with both Steve Cropper and James Burton.
Okay, next, Anita Campbell
Oh, Anita, yeah. Hey, Anita.
Well, you have met with, performed with, and hung out with a few noteworthy performers. You are a pretty cool and casual guy.
That's right.
Did anyone actually make you awestruck?
Well, in the beginning, everybody. I mean, I remember, when Conway would walk in a room, I thought I was going to fall out, My heart, was racing and everything. But, you get over that and you realize they're just like everybody else. And it doesn't really, not anymore. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that anybody would, anymore would really cause me to have a panic attack.
Okay, D. Zinc. Is there possibly one item in the MHOF that is most special to you, and could you share why? Thanks.
Well, that would be really hard. Obviously, Lightning Chance's bass was one of the first things that I acquired for the museum, and it was like I said, it was on its Only Make Believe for Conway Twitty. It was on all those great early Everly Brothers records. It was on the Opry for 40 years. It had Lightning and his brother built a kind of a leather stretched frame that acted as a drum head, and he would hold a drum brush and pluck the bass string and hit the leather pad, and that was the first drums that they would allow on the Grand Ole Opry. That's how they got drums on the Opry. They just weren't kosher at that time, and so not only was it used on all those records, it was as a bass. It was the first drum, and it was on a lot of records as well. And also when Buddy Holly came to Nashville to do the Nashville tapes, when you hear the Nashville recordings of That'll Be the Day, Lightning loaned that bass to Buddy's bass player at the time. So, and the other part about that was, unfortunately, when we had the flood of 2010, that bass was in the flood. It was destroyed, as you can imagine, an old hollow body bass. But it was in the original gig bag, so all the little splinters and pieces stayed together. And we dried it out for 2 years, and then I gave it to Williams Fine Violins here in Nashville, and paid more than we paid for our first house to have it put back together. And amazingly, you can't even tell it. And if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know it. And it sounds as good, it plays as good, and when they cleaned the mud that had adhered to the wood, kind of like if you chrome a wheel, the little particles of chrome will attach to the steel. That's what the mud silt went through the gig bag and attached to the wood. Once they put it back together, these girls that worked over there for 2 years on this thing, and they put every little splinter back together. And when they cleaned it, the original finish was still there. It's really unbelievable. So that has a close place. Uriel Jones, with my friend, the drummer from Motown, Uriel didn't have a lot, and he donated the 3 drums, the 3 pieces he had left that he used in the studio at Motown, and that he used with Stevie Wonder. So when you hear Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and a lot of those great Motown records, that kit was used. But Uriel wanted it here, and I love those records, and I loved Uriel, and the fact that he did not have a lot of money, but still wanted him to be here, meant a lot to me. Billy Sherrill's piano that he wrote all those great songs on. Billy wanted me to learn how to play piano when I was writing for his publishing company. He had just got a brand new grand piano for his office, and so that stand-up piano that he had used to co-write and write all those great records, and everybody had sat at that piano, that was ever at CBS at that time. that's here in the museum. That was the first thing and the only thing that I had in my possession that's in the museum. I was not a collector. I'm a huge Hendrix fan. The guitar that's behind me here that you don't see, I was over the moon to get that. But God, I mean, Hal Blaine's drum set that was used on all the Mamas and the Papas, the Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water, California Dreamin', and I think California Girls. I know he played on it. I think that's the same kit he used. Joe Osborne's bass that he played on everything. You know, all the Carpenters, all the Mamas and the Papas. It's just probably one of the most famous bass guitars in pop music history. I could go on.
Come visit.
Come see what you've heard.
Mike Presley from Toronto, Canada. Who is the bucket list musician that you, the MHOF, would like to see in the museum, but is currently not in the museum? Thank you for your videos. I have enjoyed them so much. I like the format of them.
Thank you. And there's too many. Yeah. I mean, there's just too many. I don't even want to, you know,
I think you've kind of answered it a little bit, somewhat. Okay, Steve S. from New York City. I love hearing about session players, those people in the background that most of us never know about and are rarely credited. Can we hear more about them? Also, if you can put together a super group of 3 drummers, 3 lead guitarists, 3 bassists, 3 rhythm guitarists from these sessions, any thoughts?
Well, oh man, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many to, you know, I mean, there's so many different genres of music that one may be known for that more so than another. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, you could, like I said, Hal Blaine played on so many records with so many different styles. You know, he by himself could be that list, you know. Yeah. I don't know. That's just, and again, I've kind of named a lot of people that I personally am fond of, you know, so right. You can kind of just put all those together and there's your answer.
Well, and just in case, I feel like they're asking specifically like the background people that aren't known as much.
Oh. Well.
I can't think of 3, maybe 1.
Again, you know, Uriel was great at Motown. Al Jackson Jr. at Stax, which we have his kit here. We have Uriel's kit. Again, Kenny Buttrey, you know, who we have his kit. Kenny played on, you know, like Margaritaville. He played on Lay Lady Lay with Dylan. He played on Heart of Gold, you know.
Even like J.I.
I mean, J.I., again, J.I. played not only with the Crickets, but he played with the Everly Brothers, and that's enough, you know, right there. One musician I hadn't mentioned, and really was, if I could probably back up and say the one musician that I felt if we ever got something of theirs in the museum was my good friend, Pete Drake. Pete was a steel guitar player and a producer and all this stuff, and he was just... Pete played on All Things Must Pass with George Harrison, and he played on He Stopped Loving Her Today with George Jones, and he played on Stand By Your Man for Tammy Wynette, and he played Lay Lady Lay for Bob Dylan, and he played on The Most Beautiful Girl in the World Behind Closed Doors with Charlie Rich, and, you know, he was just to me, the poster child, if you want to call it that, for studio musicians, period. I mean, he just crossed so many genres, and he played on, and he was perfect on all of them.
And all of our studio musicians.
Well, yes, I mean, the G-Men, and those, you know, just with Garth, the G-Men, the G-Men stands for the Garth Men, but all of those guys played on so many other hit records during the time they played with Garth in the studio, before and after. I mean, they're probably, as a group, the biggest selling group maybe, if not the Beatles, next to the Beatles.
Michael Keene from Chicago. Hi, Joe. A great job on your site. I look forward to visiting the museum, hopefully this coming summer. My question is, do you plan on including any of the players from Chess Records in the museum?
If I could find, thanks for the question, if I could find any of the instruments, yes. I would love to. I went up there and visited Chess. I do have a Robert Lockwood 69 Gretsch guitar. I would love to have, one of Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf's guitars, but I just don't think that's going to happen. But if the opportunity arose and it was something that we could afford, then we would definitely, by all means, love to have something from Chess.
One more real quick. Steve Bolton from Gilroy, California. Have any Nashville-based artists invited you into their home studios to view their guitar collections? For example, Vince Gill.
I know Vince, and Vince has not invited me to his house. Steve Warner.
I've been to Vince's house.
Yeah, well, good for you. Steve Warner has an incredible collection. I've been to Steve's many times. Steve's one of our close friends. Dwayne Eddy. I don't know. I think that's about it as far as going to their house. Hey, we'll be right back after this. Thanks for watching.